Hello, and welcome to Graywood Gardening. It is October here in Minnesota, and it is a beautiful start to fall. The weather is warm and lovely, and the forecast says it's going to stay that way for as far out as the forecast goes. So this is our second beautiful fall in a row, although hopefully we don't get a snowstorm in the middle of October like we did last year. In fact, the warm weather is so nice it's causing me some conundrums in the veggie garden. I'm used to not planting my garlic out until after the first frost has come through and leveled the veggie garden. But this year, everything is still kicking. The pepper plants and tomato plants are still pumping out produce, and I don't want to pull them out just to get the garlic in, so I'm going to wait and see what happens on that. But on today's video, there are some things in the veggie garden that we can start taking out and getting ready for winter. I also have a giant box of daffodils to get in the ground. But before we do any of that, I want to experiment with potting up some of my bell pepper plants to try overwintering them inside. So let's get started with that. So these pepper plants have done such a good job for us this year that I am actually going to try to overwinter them. Now, this is not something I've ever tried to do before, but it sounds like the process is pretty simple. Basically, you just cut the foliage way back, removing any peppers that are currently on the plant, dig it up, toss it in a pot with some potting soil, and put it inside someplace where it gets some light and keep it lightly watered. And then, in theory, in the summer, I have a big mature pepper plant to plant out. So let's give this a shot and see how it goes. Alright, so this is the plant that I'll be potting up. I'm using a, whole big pot. I don't know if there's a 1 gallon or 2 gallon. I am going to fill it up with potting soil, not garden soil, because it's growing in a pot. And it's going to need the addition of perlite or vermiculite or whatever. Helps to make your potting soil drain well. That's pretty good. Alright, well that's one plant done. I think I'm going to do a few of these. I might try cutting them back to different amounts to see which one seems to do better. But also by having, 3 or 4 or 5 of these, I increase the odds that at least a couple of them survive the winter. Alright, well that is 5 plants. I think that is enough for this year's experiment because these are going to take up quite a bit of space in the seed starting layer downstairs. So it's worth stressing that the purpose of overwintering the peppers, and you can do this with sweet peppers like bell peppers or hot peppers, they're all perennials. The purpose of overwintering them like this isn't trying to get peppers all winter. Obviously we've cut the plants way down. But instead, the idea is that this plant will slowly start growing, its roots will recover, so that come summertime, we will have mature, large plants to plant out in the garden, as opposed to just planting out little seedlings that we started a couple months before. So the thought is that these plants should grow peppers faster, get ripe peppers sooner, and each plant will produce way more peppers than something that was just started last year. So if I can get these to survive the winter, we'll see how that works out next year. The one final thing that I am going to do, obviously, is water them, but I'm also going to take the hose and spray these stems off really, really well in an attempt to get rid of any bugs or aphids or something that might be on them so that I don't bring those inside. So, many months ago, early this spring, I had thought that this hillside, which leads up into the veggie garden, would look fantastic if it was just dotted with daffodils. So I've ordered 100 daffodil bulbs in a mix of different varieties, but first I gotta chop all of this foliage down before I could get planting. So I brought my string trimmer with me, but we have a bunch of thicker brush in here, including a bunch of thorn bushes and some wild raspberries that the string trimmer can't handle. And so for that, I brought my brush trimmer. The brush trimmer is just like a string trimmer, but it has this big wicked metal blade on the end instead of a string. And this can actually cut through stems up to about 1 inch thick. I use it for lopping off buckthorn in the woods all the time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking the brush trimmer and chopping down any of the bigger, thicker brush things, and then I'll use the string trimmer to level all of the grass. The brush trimmer can go through the grass too, but it's just a lot slower at it than the string trimmer is. All right. Okay, so I have a bag of about 100 daffodil bulbs here. I get most of my bulbs, including these daffodil bulbs, from colorblends.com. I think they have great prices and great quality bulbs for if you're buying them in quantity. If you only want 10 or 15, they're usually not the place to go. So, just to make my life a little bit easier, I am going to transfer the daffodil bulbs into a bag that I can toss over my shoulder. Then we'll get planting. I plant daffodil bulbs, I don't know, I'm not very precise about it, usually 4 to 6 inches deep. In theory, you want to plant them at least twice as deep as the bulb is tall, so you plant this one, you want it to be down there. But I do have very sandy soil, and they do recommend planting a little bit deeper in sandy soil, so I do usually 4 to 6 inches. If it happens to be 8 inches, that's fine. I'm not measuring anything. I'm just digging a hole and tossing the bulb in. All right, let's get planting. Okay, that was a little bit of work, but we're done. About 45 minutes of planting. We got 100 daffodil bulbs planted in this little hillside. It should look fantastic in the spring, but the real question is whether they will establish and keep coming back year after year, given how the soil is almost pure sand under here. I am hopeful though, because I did plant some daffodil bulbs in the pure sand bank when we first moved in the fall of 2019. They of course bloomed in 2020, but they came back again this year, so somehow they were able to get some nutrients out of that sand, and here we've had at least a couple of years for some biomass to build up and break down. So I am hopeful, because not only is it going to look great in the spring, but the real hope is that they spread and expand in the years ahead until we just have this whole hillside filled with daffodils in the spring. Alright, well that is everything that I have for you on this video. Next time fall marches on, we have more stuff to clean up and put to bed, and we have more things to be planting. Until then, if you have a question for me, feel free to leave a comment below, or you can email me at brian@graywoodgardening.com. Until next time, happy gardening. Maybe I'll just stay here.